It's Michael Furlong from Rent Roll Maximiser, and I'm a business consultant working specifically in the real estate space, mainly in property management. And today I've asked James to take a little bit of time, James Dalton from Neil Dalton Consulting, to take a little bit of time to explain a few things to me, and also to the clients with regards to independent trust account auditing. Good morning, James. How are you?
Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me along today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. I'm sitting in a cafe at the moment, so if you hear a little bit of background noise, it's mainly because the cafe hasn't got the whole rules around COVID and should be closed. But anyway, I've tried to put a nice little background in there for you, nice little wine cellar. James, I just wanted to ask a question, and this is one that gets asked of me a lot, particularly from principals that are sales-based principals who don't necessarily understand the accounting aspect of the trust account. So what should a let's just say a sales-based principal, or even a principal that's not really across their trust accounting, what should they be looking for in their end of month trust account reconciliation? How do they know if things add up, or if there's fraud, or what is it they should be looking for?
Sure, that's a good question. I think when you if you break down the reconciliation and what the reconciliation consists of, there's really two aspects. There's the cash book, okay, and then there's the bank account. All right. So the cash book and the bank account need to balance, and they need to reconcile right down to the cent. Okay. So in an end of month reconciliation, if the reconciliation doesn't balance, i.e. there's a variance on the reconciliation, then that's a sign that there's a problem. Okay. So you
mean when you say variance, there's not enough money in the account?
Potentially, there's not enough money in the trust, or alternatively, the cash book is deficient for whatever reason may have occurred. So that's really the first thing that you look at as an agency principal reviewing a reconciliation. The second thing that you look at is, okay, if it does balance, you need to look at a number of things on the reconciliation. The first thing is, are there any adjustments? So an adjustment is effectively a balancing item that is manually entered into a reconciliation to ensure that it balances. Now, anytime you see an adjustment, you should be asking your trust accountant, what is that adjustment? Why has it occurred? Because it could be a sign of fraud.
What I see them a lot. It's almost like a miscellaneous. I didn't know where to put this, so therefore it sits in the adjustments. I see it when I'm doing my consulting with the real estate businesses. I have a look at their reconciliations, and I ask, what is that? And so I didn't know where to put it.
It's a very good point. And with adjustments, the thing that you want to be looking for is those adjustments need to be reconciled and cleared on a regular basis. You don't want to see a scenario. I had a scenario actually just recently with a client where they had adjustments that were dating back 6 months. Okay.
So is there a time period that they should be cleared from? Is it within that given month?
They should absolutely be cleared within the given month. But if they roll across a month due to timing, say they occur at the end of the month,
yes, for
example, then you should be looking to clear them in the early part of the following month.
Next month, yeah, sure.
Okay? Yeah. Okay. So probably the other item that you should be looking at is unpresented deposits. So these are deposits that have been receipted into your trust account software, yes, but not banked. So they haven't been presented at bank.
Okay.
So if you see a scenario where unpresented deposits are carrying forward month over month over month, that's an indication that those monies haven't been banked, and that there's a possibility that those monies may have been stolen or used for other purposes, okay, in the business.
Yeah, give me an example of how that could work. Is that where maybe I hear lots of, or I have heard lots of scenarios where the bonds have been taken? Is that what you're talking about? Is that
no, that's a good question, but it's actually a different situation. Okay. So if you think about it in terms of, someone walks into the office and they've got cash, and
Yes.
and the receptionist receipts that cash into the system, and the cash goes into petty cash, for example. Okay.
Sure.
And then what happens? What happens if someone sticks their fingers in the petty cash, removes that petty cash, walks out of the office, and that money is never presented at bank? That's the situation that I'm describing. Your question about bonds is a really good one. Bonds is an area where fraud can occur, and I've seen it occur on a number of occasions. As an agency principal, you should be requesting that your property management department, at a minimum, on a quarterly basis, do a reconciliation of bonds at the RTBA versus properties managed in their trust account software, to understand what the variances are and why they exist, to identify whether there are any bond monies missing.
So James, at the moment, I'm working in an agency where they have just recently purchased a rent roll. And as you know, with rent roll, when a transaction goes across, there's a bulk transfer of the bonds.
Yes.
And, excuse me. When I've gone in and as part of my consulting, I've said, let's do a reconciliation of the bonds. There's 7 bonds that have been transferred across from the old company.
Yes.
That have come across. So we're now trying to work with the RTBA to get those removed, because there's 7 lots of money that are sitting with the Residential Tenancy Bond Authority for tenants that weren't cleared from the old company.
Oh, right.
And the company that I'm with now hadn't identified them. So it's one of those things that we're looking at and saying, as part of you're looking for bonds that are missing, but at the same time, also looking for additional bonds that shouldn't be there or hadn't been cleared tenants that have been there for a while.
That's right. And actually, today things have changed. The RTBA at the end of last year, they changed their systems now. They've effectively requested to have access to your trust account software so they can debit your software, which essentially means that estate agents now need to receive the money into trust from the tenant, and then the RTBA takes it from trust. Now, the problem with that is what I'm seeing is very large build-ups of bond funds in trust accounts, because they're not being followed up and reconciled by the trust accountants, because the system that we have in place at the moment requires the tenant to approve the release of the money.
I was about to it's one where I think there's a period where the bond authority will send out the notification to the tenant, and that link will expire. So therefore,
that's right.
It can be. Look, I think it's a good system that they try to fix for the fraud. The unintended consequence is that there's now tenants that aren't approving that release.
Yes, absolutely.
And how if I'm an agency principal, how do I know if there is fraud happening inside my business? What should I be looking out for there? Maybe give me 2 or 3 things.
The key areas to look for are does your end of month reconciliation balance or not? If it doesn't balance, look at that. Are there any unpresented deposits that are carrying over month to month?
So just go back, just maybe with that one, what we're saying to the principals is, don't just get something pushed in front of you and sign it.
Correct. That's what we're saying.
Maybe we actually have to look at it and understand it.
Yeah.
And let's learn how to read that reconciliation rather than just signing it.
Yeah, agree. And if you think about it, as an agency principal, when you look at that reconciliation, what you should be doing is there's a line item on there that says bank statement figure. So you should have a copy of your bank statement, and you should be able to tie those 2 figures together at the end of the month.
Yes.
Okay. And the same goes for the cash book balance. You should be looking at the summary trial balance to make sure that the trial balance totals at the bottom to that figure that equals the cash book balance on the reconciliation. Okay. So the other item, as I said, was adjustments. Where you have adjustments that are carrying over from month to month, that is a telltale sign of issues. But there are a lot of other areas outside of what I've just described where there can be issues of fraud. One particular area that I have spoken to many clients about is the area of suppliers within property management. So
smoke alarm, the trade, the electrician, the plumber. So I do know of a case many years ago where the property manager was fiddling the books a little bit and was creating suppliers that weren't real, and money was being debited from landlords. I know that was the case, and I think that person spent a little bit of time in jail.
Yes, so your point's a really good one, Michael. You've stolen my thunder there. That's exactly but it's what you've described there is effectively fictitious creditors.
Yes.
Okay, and what I say to agency principals about their creditors is that each year they need to be reviewing all of their creditors,
sure.
And they need to have a very tight list of creditors that they know and have approved. And if one of their property managers wants to add a creditor to that list, it needs to be formally approved by the owners of the business to ensure that it actually exists. Otherwise, you end up in a situation like you described, Michael, where money goes missing.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, it's getting noisy in the cafe here. What I'll do is we'll wrap it up with that. But if anyone that's watching now is interested in touching base with James, neildaltonconsulting.com.au, is that right?
That's right.
Fantastic, James. Thank you for that. Enjoy the day, and I look forward to chatting to you soon.
Thanks, Michael. Speak next time. Cheers.